Good morning, everyone, and thank you for taking time with me this morning. I understand your time is valuable, and in an ASC, the schedule is everything. So I want to make sure that today is worth it. Today is not an IT presentation, and we're not going to talk about fear-based cybersecurity. This is a leadership conversation about protecting enterprise value inside your surgery center. Because whether we like it or not, AI and cybersecurity now sit directly in the lane of revenue stability, compliance, exposure, and long term valuation. So, if you own, operate, or oversee an ambulatory surgery center, this affects you. This is not theoretical, but operational. So, here's what we're going to walk through: what's actually happening with AI right now, what you truly control as executives, where the biggest opportunity is hiding, what doing nothing quietly cost you, and how to turn this risk conversation into a growth conversation. The reason this matters at the executive level is simple. Technology risk is now enterprise risk. It affects EBITDA, it affects reputation, and it affects exit value. And it also affects how confidently you sleep at night when you know patients are scheduled tomorrow morning. AI is the most disruptive force since the internet, not because it's flashy, but because it accelerates everything. It accelerates documentation, it accelerates claims workflows, it accelerates communication, and unfortunately, it accelerates attacks. The why here is very important. Healthcare is operationally dependent on digital systems. When speed increases in a dependent system, both efficiency and vulnerability increase. If leadership doesn't intentionally govern that speed, the organization absorbs the risk by default. Cyber attacks are not slowing down either, and AI makes it easier for criminals. The barrier to entry has dropped significantly. You no longer need a sophisticated hacker. You need access to AI tools that generate believable conversation and automate vulnerability scanning. So, why does this matter to an ASC? Because your environment is predictable. Surgery days are predictable. Payroll cycles are predictable. Vendor payments are predictable. And that makes you targetable. Criminals prefer predictable systems. Now, again, this isn't about panic. It's about understanding initiatives and aligning your protection accordingly. So the leadership question here becomes, are you ready? Not tool ready, but strategy ready. If scheduling went down tomorrow, do you know what the protocol is? If a vendor breach exposed patient data, do you know who leads that response? If financing received a convincing wire request, is there a verification discipline in place? The why here isn't that chaos compounds quickly in surgical operations. One day of disruption becomes a week of effects. Executive clarity shortens chaos, and lack of clarity extends it. If you run payroll, store patient data, or move money, you are already on the radar. ASCs do all three. You store PHI, you handle billing data, and you integrate with clearinghouses, anesthesia groups, EHR platforms, and device vendors. The reason this is important is ecosystem exposure. Most modern healthcare breaches originate through a third party connection. So you may be secure internally, but if your vendor governance isn't active, you inherit their weaknesses. Now think about that. You use CIS, you use anesthesia associates, you use other people. If they have weaknesses and you're not managing your vendor governance, then those are your weaknesses as well. At the executive level, vendor oversight is no longer a purchasing function, it's a risk function. Think about the last time that you had a vendor fill out a risk notification form or a risk verification form. And at the same time, if you're not thinking about how to use AI to outpace competitors, you're already behind. Large health systems are investing heavily in automation, predictive analytics, and AI assisted workflows. They're reducing administrative drag and accelerating revenue cycle performance. So, why does this matter to you? Because surgeons compare experiences, payers compare performance, and referral sources notice efficiency. Competitive advantage in healthcare is increasingly operational, not just clinical. Doing nothing costs you, not just in breach scenarios, but in daily friction. Manual prior authorizations cost staff time, repetitive documentation slows physicians, and poor visibility into case profitability affects strategic decisions. Weak governance increases regulatory exposure. The why is the margin preservation. In an ASC, small inefficiencies scale quickly. Small compliance gaps escalate quickly, and small disruptions ripple quickly. Leaders protect margin by eliminating friction and reducing preventable volatility. So, what do you have control over? Well, you don't have control over external threats. You don't control whether a ransomware group targets healthcare this quarter. And you don't control whether AI tools become more sophisticated next month. But you do control your strategy. You control governance, you control whether there is a defined AI usage policy, and you control whether vendor access is audited. You also control whether former employee credentials are systematically disabled, and you control whether financial approvals require verification discipline. The why here is accountability. Regulators, partners, and even buyers evaluate whether leadership exercise reasonable oversight. Oversight is defensible, neglect is not. You also control how proactive you are and who you trust as your AI and cyber strategic partner. Proactive leadership reduces dwell time. That's the time between exposure and detection. That gap determines whether an incident is quietly contained or escalates publicly. At the executive level, proactive posture communicates seriousness internally and externally. Now, again, as I said, nothing today has been a tech conversation. This is a business growth conversation. AI can reduce cost per case by improving workflow efficiency. It can improve cash flow by timing and accelerating claims follow-ups. And it can enhance patient experience with automated communication. Competitive advantage positioning is very important here. Modern operations signal strength. Organized systems attract surgeons, and reliable processes reassure payers. Stability attracts investors. So leverage AI as your strategic edge. Use it to reduce friction in scheduling, use it to streamline documentation workflows, and use it to identify bottlenecks in throughput. But pair it with guardrails, because speed without control is simply fast chaos. So how do you turn this into growth? Well, you start with clarity. You conduct an external exposure assessment. You review access controls for vendors. You map operational friction points, and you identify where AI can create efficiently safely. Growth does not require 50 initiatives. It requires a handful of disciplined decisions executed consistently. When you reduce exposure and reduce friction simultaneously, you stabilize revenue and you protect your reputation. Stability builds trust. Trust builds referrals, and referrals build growth. That chain reaction is why this conversation matters at the CEO level. Over the next year, expect continued pressure in vendor-related breaches, AI-generated phishing, credential misuse, and regulatory scrutiny. Governance will increasingly be viewed as a leadership competency, not a technical checkbox. So, if this feels irrelevant to your organization, that's okay. Every center is at a different stage. But if you see even small vulnerabilities or operational friction that could scale, then a strategic discussion makes sense. So let me close with a direct question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it for your ASC this year to reduce cyber exposure and improve operational efficiency? If it's below a 7, the timing may not be right. If it's an 8, 9, or 10, what's preventing movement? Your budget, your alignment, your clarity? If you'd like clarity, schedule a profit and growth session with me. We'll evaluate exposure, vendor governance, AI opportunity, and operational friction, and then let you decide. You can book a profit session with me at https://cidian.group/risk. Again, that's cidian.group/risk. And this Friday, you can join us for a live lunch and learn here in Jacksonville at Fogo de Chao. We'll be talking about the same exact risk. You can book that at cidian.group/LNL 126. Again, that's cidian.group/LNL 126. And if you use code JAX, these tickets are going for $79 each, and there's only a couple left. But if you use code JAX, I'll let you in absolutely free for being a viewer of Always Ahead. Once again, I appreciate you joining us today. This is with this important leadership conversation. So reach out to me, cidian.group/risk. Otherwise, I will see you right here next week. And as always, be absolutely kind to each other. Thank you so much and have a great week.